Hi there. Spoiler alert. Things are about to go from bad to worse following the fall. We're in Genesis chapter 4, story of Cain and Abel. And we're going to read the first 10 verses. And I've also got a couple of verses that I'd like to read you from the New Testament as well. So, reading from the NIV. Genesis 4, verse 1. Adam lay with his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, but Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." And then a couple of verses from the letter to the Hebrews, a letter written to some early Jewish Christians, which I've just managed to lose my place. Hebrews 12, verse 23. Hebrews 12, verse 23, if you want to note it. The writer says to these early Jewish Christians, "You have come to God, the judge of all men, to the spirits of righteous men made perfect, to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel." I'm sure we'll have cause to come back to that in a minute or two. But first of all, perhaps the first thing I should say here is that all is not lost. They have been chased out of the garden, Adam and Eve, but they have not lost, obviously, all sense of God and of God's presence and God's power, because Eve, at least, is conscious of the Lord's help in childbirth. And she views what is probably the most beautiful natural occurrence in a supernatural light. Not only so, but she is already thinking about her newborn son, Cain, and how he will one day become a man. And then after him, she gives birth to his brother Abel. Eve is conscious of God. The brothers themselves are conscious of God, and that is clearly brought out by the fact that over the course of time, we are told, there's this feeling that develops within them, both, it seems, unless one did copy the other, but there is this feeling that develops in them that they want to give something to God, want to give something back to God, want to make an offering. to God. And we know, don't we, that this religious impulse does exist in us. The story itself, however, has always kind of perplexed me, because it always seemed to me that it wasn't Cain's fault if he was the gardener. They each had their jobs, it seems to me. Abel kept the flocks and Cain worked the garden. And it would only be natural, it seems to me, that each of them would want to offer to God, or could only offer to God, conceivably, that which they had to hand. So why was it that somewhat arbitrarily and capriciously, it might seem at first sight, that God would accept one offering, i.e. that of Abel's, and dismiss the other offering, Cain's offering? Doesn't seem fair somehow, seems a bit rough. Well, there may be one or two hints. We can't say anything, definitively, but there seems to be one or two, there seems to be one or two ripe hints in the text, because we are told that Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil to God, and Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. Could it be that by the description, or lack of it, in the case of Cain, that there was something about the nature of the offering and the spirit of which was offered, that it was Abel who worshipped God, that it was Abel who wanted to give to God of his best, give to God something that he felt was worthy of God, whereas Cain just gave something of what he had. We don't know for sure. What we do know is that giving and receiving are both, or both should be, acts of freedom. And, I am not obliged to, gratefully receive what you give me. And you are not obliged to offer it. In the giving and in the receiving, there is freedom. And it's that freedom which legitimates, as it were, or which validates the whole business. Nonetheless, I still have something of a problem with this story. What is clear, though, as we go on to verse 9, is that the Lord appreciates Cain's setback, and he tries to help him. And he, in effect, says to Cain, well, what's your problem? Okay, I didn't accept your offering as I accepted your brother's, but there's no reason for you to be angry or jealous, it seems, obviously. There's no need for you to be downcast. Just, get over it. Press on. Do what's right. And you'll be okay. But if you let it get to you, and that's what we mean, I think, by sin crouching at the door here, in terms of the story itself. If you let it get you, instead of getting over it, then you won't be okay. So God clearly does try to help Cain through the setback, help him get over it, and help him get on. But obviously we know the story, I think, that Cain is having none of it, takes him to a secluded spot, and gets rid of him. He can't live with the fact that his brother has succeeded, as it were, where he has not. And so he decides that the best course of action is to blank him out completely and get rid of him completely. You remember the question to Adam and Eve in the garden, where are you? And at least they owned up. They said, well, we were hiding. We were hiding because we were naked. That's not the case with Cain. Cain adds insult to injury by lying to God now. So he has sinned against God. He has sinned, obviously, against his brother. He now adds, as I say, insult to injury and just lying to God, obviously feeling that he can get away with it. And so he very dismissively says, well, I don't know where he is. Is that any of my business? Am I my brother's keeper? Well, that's a question, am I my brother's keeper, that has been debated down the ages. But far from being his brother's keeper, he didn't have to be his assassin, did he? That's the least that we could say. So God addresses to Cain the same question, incidentally, that he addresses to Eve in the story of the fall. What have you done? What have you done? Don't you know that your brother's blood, far from you being able to hide what you have done, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. And so it transpires that the greatest sacrifice that Abel made was the ultimate sacrifice in this story. The greatest sacrifice was that Abel made was of Abel himself having to succumb to his brother's anger because of the offering which he had made previously, not of his own life, but of the firstborn of his flock. Interestingly, in the New Testament, we are told that Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor, knew that the scribes and the Pharisees, the Jewish leaders, had delivered Jesus up to him through jealousy, because it was clear that God's favor was with the Lord Jesus Christ in a way that it was not with them. And the Lord Jesus ultimately offered up his own life in sacrifice. And that is the sense of those couple of verses that we read out earlier from the book of Hebrews. That if the blood of Abel cries out to God from the ground, the blood of the Lord Jesus screams. But the question is, what do they say? And the reason that the writer to the Hebrews says that the blood of the Lord Jesus speaks a better word than the blood of Abel is because, once again, Abel was a mere foreshadowing of the great sacrifice which God himself would make, would allow to be made for the sins of the world. So that even though it was through the wickedness of men like you and me, petty, nasty, jealous men like you and me, that the Lord Jesus was delivered up. Though that was the first cause, the main cause, and God just used that to accomplish his purposes, that in turning everything around, God allowed the Lord Jesus to bear the punishment, even for the wickedness and the sin of the men who took him down in the first place. That is the extent of the greatness and the goodness and the kindness of God towards wicked men like us. Well, we'll see, we'll carry on with this story in chapter 4 next time around. We'll leave it there for now.